Hey guys, what's going on? So I wanted to talk about this whole DaddyOFive drama that was going on since the past month, because I think this situation, DaddyOFive, is a great representation of what happens when child abuse is dealt with. But it also shows us that sometimes those who go through with abuse or deal with, but it also shows that those who go through abuse and deal with it on a consistent basis aren't so lucky. What people don't realize is that abuse is something that can stick with you for a long time, and it causes a stigma or something that's similar to PTSD. It causes like this thing that bothers people even years if it's brought back. It's brought up again. And it's one of the things that I feel people don't really pay much attention to mental health issues. It's another case of that, because honestly, mental health is something that is very severe, that is overlooked amongst other people. We have people that deal with mental abuse or mental health issues or mental illnesses that are either caused by other people. And I feel like I want to talk about this. So before I start, I want to say DaddyOFive was something that was started by a father who decided to basically do prank videos on his children. Yet, unlike other prank channels that basically talk about, or that deal with pranking with adults, or adults are being pranked, teenagers, or at least they're more emotionally mature than these children. Some of these children are range from 6 to 7 or 6 to 9 years old, I guess, around that age, to 10 maybe. It's a situation that I think honestly is absolutely fucked. What I want to talk about is basically how it affects kids. So first off, before I begin, again, is that the mother, the biological mother, not the stepmother, not Mommy05, but the mother of Cody and his sister, whose name escapes me, unfortunately, because the one I heard about the most was Cody, because he was the main focus of the abuse. Pretty much, the biological mother got custody of her kids, and I could talk about custody battles, but I would need some help with that because I don't have a full grasp on how custody battles are dealt with. And from what I understand, people basically learned about the fact that he was abusive. I mean, that's already been said and done. I mean, people even noticed it in the videos too, that he's already showcased signs of his abuse. He records it, and he puts his son Cody on the spot for the most part, because the son Cody deals with the most abuse, where his possessions are broken, his things are ruined, and the thing is, Cody has ODD, which I believe is a psychological disorder or neurological disorder. I don't know too much about ODD, but from what I remember from reading, it has to do with the fact that it causes basically it causes people to become easily angered. And when you have that in mind and you watch the videos, which if you want to watch whatever is left of those videos, because those videos are now taken down. DaddyOFive took down the videos and had them all privated because, well, why not? He's probably gonna unprivate them later on. But anyway, basically, when you talk about abuse and how it affects others, it's something that's complicated. I'm from the Middle East, and our perspectives and our viewpoint of how you should raise children is unfortunately different from how other places are done. Like, what is considered parenting here, and in other Asian countries too, if I'm not mistaken, can be considered like emotional abuse and verbal abuse by other places. There's a lot of like Asian countries where a lot of mental and emotional abuse takes place, but unfortunately, because of the fact that that's how the culture is, and people just see it as an A-okay thing, it's an average thing, not much is done about it, and unfortunately, that's one of the circumstances that causes abuse to be overlooked, is either culture. Another sad fact is that abusers tend to hide their abuse. I cannot stress this enough. It's been said before, but I want to say it again. Abusers can hide their abuse, and also they tend to think that their abuse is okay because they were treated that way as kids. You know, those parents that were like, oh, I got beaten when I was a kid, I turned out all right, because that's how they were raised. But they don't realize that it doesn't always work, and even to them, like, even when you say it that way, they don't realize that, yeah, they probably were abused as kids. And it does cause a lot of psychological disorders or whatever. But unfortunately, these people don't want to look into it because unfortunately, I don't know, because they were raised to think, oh, it's not a big deal, it's not this, it's not that. And the sad thing about this is, this isn't the end of the situation with DaddyOFive. This isn't the end, because I know that, because from my understanding with custody battles and how this father is, he's going to find a way to get that kid back. Mark my words. Custody battles don't usually end there. Years later, he's probably going to find a way to get custody of his kids back, or he's going to find a way to make himself be the victim. I mean, he already has been doing that. A lot of abusers tend to do this thing where they play victim, where they play as if they're the ones that never hurt anyone. People in public, the abusers in public can have like a second face compared to their other face. They can be as friendly as they want. They appear as nice and happy and kind as always to other people. But when they're behind the closed doors, they are a completely different person. And because of situations like that, it makes these situations even harder. Even issues like rape is also difficult to deal with. Because it's almost as complicated as dealing with abuse. Because one, the rapist can basically lie and remove any form of evidence. Yeah, we have, I'm sorry, what are the terms? The scientists that look into the DNA, I'm probably gonna have to look that up later, or probably put an annotation, I don't know. But we can have people that look into things, into DNA and whatnot. We can have people that, that are witnesses. Unfortunately, rape is a very, very, very complicated, crime to deal with. Because 9 times out of 10, sometimes they believe in the victim, but here's the thing. Sometimes the abuser's never caught. The abuser is never caught because there's quote-unquote never enough evidence, and that's the unfortunate thing. And that never enough evidence is made even more complicated when you also put into perspective the fact that, unfortunately, there are those who cry wolf. There are victims, or they're supposed victims of rape, that'll cry wolf. And I've seen this happen, or I wouldn't say I've seen it happen. I've read about various cases where it's happened, and where the person is falsely accused, put into jail, and sometimes they're proven guilty. They're guilty until proven innocent, and that's the unfortunate thing. There's a lot of cases where false rape accusations do happen, and sometimes they're put into action. And then other cases, there are people that are raped, but the rapists are never caught, or they're sometimes caught. And it's a very severe issue. And it's the same thing with abuse, too. Nobody talks about, how the abuser can basically have a second face. And hell, even there are victims that can also claim, this person abused me. This person abused me, and this person basically will basically lie about that as well. It depends. It happens all the time. There's people that cry wolf, and see, when you have accusations like that, it can damage a person's reputation. And that's why, honestly, when I look into situations like this, it's just so complicated. Cody was lucky, and Cody and his sister were lucky that his father was stupid enough to put those videos on the internet. And honestly, everyone else gathered around the internet and proved this father to be the piece of shit that he was. This was just one lucky instance. Honestly, who's to say the next time some kid gets abused and it's just thrown under the rug? Or a woman comes out and says that she's raped, or a man comes out and says he's raped. Men also get abused too, and that's also not talked about either. Men get raped as well, but nobody talks about that. And that's unfortunately because of how society is. This is a hard video for me to make because I'm also a victim of abuse. And even now, I'm still kind of going through that, as is. Not as bad as it was 4 years ago, but it's still pretty bad, and it still affects me to this day. I dealt with it at school, where I got into trouble sometimes because of bullies. And the teacher wouldn't be willing to listen to my side, and I got punished, I got detention because of it. And because I thought I was wrong all the time. And the thing is, when you deal with, getting in trouble a lot because you think you're in the wrong, but you're really not. And I started to realize I really wasn't in the wrong in a lot of those situations where I got in trouble sometimes, or because I happened to respond to some teacher, or not teacher, some student basically messing with me. Honestly, that was not easy. And home life, a lot of the abuse happened when I started living where I am now in Kuwait. That's why I brought up, cultures and whatnot. Because unfortunately, the way that sometimes they raise kids here is also the reason why I have an issue with socializing here. Because there's a lot of stigma that's brought up, honestly. And when I see something like Cody being abused by his dad, but it's not dealt with properly, it enrages me. I can't tell you how much I was fucking pissed when I saw those videos. I was planned on making a video myself and just responding in anger. Just like screaming and whatnot, but just, I couldn't do it. Because the emotions were pretty overwhelming. It's really not an easy thing, honestly, when you deal with that. That's also why I'm kind of glad when I hear people like Boogie, one of the most subscribed YouTubers of all time, like, come out and say, or just talk about his abuse and whatnot, and bring it into light. Because honestly, I think we need more people like Boogie. Him and Philip DeFranco both helped out in those situations. And if we had more people like this, like these two in the world, where they bring attention to a situation, if only there were more like witnesses, there were more people to help out, and at least help get things straightened out more often, we wouldn't have as many issues as we do now. Unfortunately, this is reality, and we're living in a world now that just is filled with large amounts of just anger and bile and whatnot. It's absolutely insane. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. Till next time.